Hello, everyone. My name is Tim Seldin. I'm the president of the Montessori Foundation, and with me are many, many of my colleagues and friends from around the world. This meeting is capped at 500, and we are currently at just under 400. So when we hit maximum, unfortunately, people will end up having to wait. If anyone loses internet, the people that are on the waiting list will get in turn of order of when they did it. This meeting is deliberately designed for school leaders of independent, private, or faith-based Montessori schools. And our topic today is dealing with the economic implications of going from in-person school to distance education. There are schools all over the world, especially in Asia, that are 2 or 3 months ahead of us and have gone through this and have successfully weathered the storm. Our goal today is not to talk to you in depth about how to do virtual online education when your children can't come into school. There are lots of task forces working on that. What we're going to look at today is the specific issues of ethics. Like I had a school today asking, we're legally allowed to open as a daycare center, should we? And I helped them to think through the pros and the cons and the economics and all the different sides of it. And this is intended to be a discussion, not a lecture. So I'm going to be quiet and invite Kathy to moderate the meeting. And we have a lot of really great people here who have lots to share, and we want to hear from you too, because we know that the most important part of this is you getting a chance to ask questions and feel like your stories are told. When you do speak, try to avoid going into a long monologue like I did, so that our 2 hours is not spent on 1 or 2 people. Okay, Kathy, you're unmuted, I'm muted.
Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks, Tim. Thanks everyone who's come today. We really appreciate you being here, and I know that there's a lot of wisdom in the room. We've asked several people that we know come with some expertise in this area to help navigate. That's the goal, and it's also to share, for each of you to share some thoughts, ideas that you're doing that might be helpful to others, as well as identifying some of your challenges that we might be able to help you with or help connect you with the right people and the right resources. So again, it's not that we're the experts in the room, that we are here sort of as facilitators to help you have a platform to share and to start looking at these things seriously. We've identified that there's tremendous economic impact. What people have shared with us in our town hall meetings is, what do we do if people won't pay tuition? We're in the midst of re-enrollment and people are insecure about whether or not they should re-enroll. We have concerns about, I still have to pay my fixed expenses. How will I get through? How do I pay my teachers? So these are some of the questions that have come up in these past meetings. And I know I'm gonna ask Mark Seldin, MaryEllen Kordas, Mary Beth Ricks, Michael Bourne. There's some of you that are on the call today specifically that have some experience in this area and some history that you might be able to share to start. So I'm gonna ask Mark, can you say a few words? I know you made a video about this that we've posted and shared that I think's been really helpful.
Absolutely, Kathy. I don't have any magic, pills to share or wand to wave. I can say that I've thought a lot about this, and I'm continuing to think a lot about this. And I do have some observations that are new, even since yesterday. The first is to recognize that what we're experiencing right now is entirely psychological, right? We haven't been around. I mean, this crisis hasn't been going on long enough for it to be an actual economic crisis, although we're clearly about to have one. What this means is that everyone is reacting in fear out of the anticipation of what's coming. And so I spent some time thinking about how I can help my community with that. And I'm experiencing that both with my school, Renaissance Montessori in Cary, as well as with the Center for Guided Montessori Studies, where I manage the operations. And, a lot of parents are coming to me as a school owner, and a lot of schools are coming to me as the training provider, and what they're expressing is uncertainty. And so what I've been thinking about is how can I help people navigate uncertainty? And so what I'm emerging, I do not have concrete solutions to share, but what I have so far to share as a strategy I'm exploring is the idea of giving choices. Just like we do with young children, we're all sort of reduced to that level right now where we're feeling very out of control. And so what I'm trying to do is find ways to give my stakeholders control. And so when parents are coming to me and saying, you know, I don't know what's happening with my job, and are you talking about charging tuition, you know, next month? What I'm thinking about is a set of choices I can give them for how they may continue to be involved with the community and to meet our expectations, right? Because we do have our fixed expenses, as people have said. And at the same time, not make them feel like we are part of that thing that is out of control for them. I will say and reinforce what I said on the video that some of you may have seen, is that I want to reinforce that our principal responsibility is to our communities. And that means everyone in the community, and not just the parents, but also our staff. These are professionals, and I will not feel okay if I'm not paying these people. I strongly encourage people to look at every avenue they can to continue to bring in money and to continue to pay your staff to the extent that is possible. I think those are my thoughts of the day, if you will.
Thanks, Mark, and we may call back on you for some other words. MaryEllen, I'd love to have you just give us a little bit of what the way you see it. You've been through some economic crises in your long Montessori career. How do you see this right now?
Thanks, Kathy. So what I think all of us have come to realize in the Montessori world, there's a gentleness and kindness amongst us that puts us juxtaposed against how do we take tuition when we're not actually doing the job that we think we're supposed to be doing. And it often makes people feel like, oh my gosh, I can't collect tuition. I have to stop doing this and just serve the children in another way. I want to reassure you all that you are in the business of providing an education, but you're also a community of people that we need to keep intact for now and for the future. So be sure that you understand it is okay for you to continue to collect tuition. It's very important for the families and for the children going forward that you are in existence. Some schools are on the tipping point of being able to close very quickly should something like this come up. Now, I also know that you're thinking about the future with enrollments and how all of that will be going. I hear from some of you that that is already underway. Really, what I think you're going to be facing is not only this financial issue, but you're going to have to market this and to people in a way that you are calming to them, that you're understanding of their problems. As Kathy, I think you said the other day so well, that we'll get to tuition, we'll think about tuition, but right now we're looking for the well-being of all of our community, for our families, and we will answer all of your questions in due time. We're all wanting the answers to be right at our fingertips, and we just don't have them all right now. So be brave with continuing to collect tuition for those of you. I think most of the people on the call are from independent schools, and certainly right now that is still the majority of the country and the world are still independent tuition-based schools. I think there's other challenges that the charters and public schools will face, but when you're dealing with this financial piece, just be strong, and hopefully, you know, some of us have come from the small school arena and have wound up these larger schools and have not always had the infrastructure to deal with what that means, that you need HR people, you need at this point, you need counselors, you need child development people, you need OT people, you need so much, and some of us have fallen behind the curve. So in a sense, this is a wake-up call for all of us to make sure that we get the plan in place going forward. And I know there's other folks that you'd like to have say something, Kathy, so take it away for now.
Yeah, no, thank you, MaryEllen. And I'd like to go to Mary Beth first, because I want to give her credit for that response to parents. Mary Beth Ricks, that was her response, which I thought was really appropriate. We're dealing with the health and safety. We're dealing with the crisis. We'll come back to revisit tuition because it just buys us a little time to think this through. And I think people understand that. So Mary Beth, how about you say a few words next?
Of my 245 families, I only had 2 families ask, and that's because their children go to they have younger siblings at a daycare that is giving back the tuition. So I did, as you said, put out that response to just those 2 families. And it just said, Bowman's first priority is to our staff and our students and making sure everyone is safe and healthy. Bowman's second priority is to figure out a way to provide work in a new dimension. And the teachers are working to pivot as fast as possible. And number 3, I'll figure out tuition later. And everybody, the 2 families that asked me were like, oh yeah, of course. And so I think sometimes people are operating in that like reptile brain of panic, right? And like Mark said, to Mark's point exactly, they are fight or flight right now. They're like, oh, what about money? What about this? What about that? And those are things they can control, right? There's so much of this we can't control. And I think that's where any negativity that I'm coming, which is really only from one parent at our school, who's quite stressed out about how her kid is going to do online work. And her child's a 6th grader. That I think it's coming from panic and fear of not being able to control any part of this.
Yeah, yeah. And I want everybody to know, thank you, Mary Beth. And I think that, you know, we've heard from MaryEllen and Mary Beth, both ran fairly large schools, currently, and MaryEllen previously ran a fairly large school. Mark is working in a smaller school, an early childhood, infant, toddler, and primary school. So we have a diversity of leaders that we've invited here from different sizes and different backgrounds. And I'd like to invite, but I do want to respond that I'm seeing what's happening in the chat. And Tanya Reiskin, also from the Montessori Foundation, is monitoring that a little bit. We're going to get back to some of your questions, so don't think that we're ignoring that. I see that there's a real fear from some of you as school leaders who are saying, my parents just aren't going to pay tuition in April. And so some of this is reliant on your structure, right? If you're a school that charges weekly or monthly and it's kind of an ongoing thing versus some of the schools that, you know, charge for a school year and there's a contract and an enrollment agreement, tuition payments involved. So we have some different structures that we want to really be respectful of. So we'll get to those kinds of questions. I'd like to go to Andrew Cutt. Andrew is one of the people I go to for a voice of reason. And so not that all of you aren't that, but sorry, but Andrew's kind of my go-to guy. So Andrew, if you're on, I know you are here somewhere, I just can't see you. Would you mind unmuting and giving us a few words from your perspective from a school in DC?
Sure.
There
Right. So I'm Andrew Cutt. I'm the founder of Oneness Family Montessori School in Chevy Chase, Maryland, in USA. The comments so far are really hard to improve upon what Mark was saying and what Mary Beth was saying. And I'm sorry, I forgot the name of the other person. Forgive me.
MaryEllen?
Yes, okay. Yes. I think that it's such a balance right now, but I think you know, we do have to somehow trust in the goodness of our communities and the goodwill that we've built over time with our schools. And you know, we may end up losing some families here depending on certain circumstances. And we're going to address those of you that are dealing with very unique circumstances where it's a month-to-month contract in just a few minutes, as I understand it from Kathy. Mm-hmm. But my contribution would be to that we shouldn't feel like we have to be have it all figured out, and that we have to be ultra clear and ultra strong, that it's okay for us to be somewhat vulnerable and to not have all the answers, and to trust in the goodness of our community, especially if we have like a core group of parents or a parent association. We're meeting with our parent association tomorrow midday via Zoom. And with them, we're going to get the, kind of get the pulse of how the community is feeling, and we'll see what questions people are having, and we'll be able to better gauge our response. But I think that we believe in community, we believe in togetherness and unity, we believe in shared stakeholding to one degree or another, and we believe in, kind of moving together in a common spirit. So I would say that's my what I'd like to contribute today, is just to stay rooted in who we are, and to trust that we'll find our way forward. It's all very uncharted territory, and we just don't know all the answers or where it's all going to end up. And so let's try to walk that journey together as much as we can, and to listen as much as we can, and to be present. But as others have said, to stay rooted in, if we lose our schools, we can't serve anyone anymore. And that's the bottom line. We have to say to parents, we're all trying to do this such that the school can survive and thrive in the future.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. And I think that there's going to be a really important theme that we're going to hear through this entire meeting about listening as a priority, and about engaging parents and having them feel like they're part of the community. I think that will continue to be an ongoing theme. So thanks for that, Andrew. I want to take a moment. I just got an urgent text from MPPI. They have put together a letter for Congress that has to have every state represented. And so if you happen to be your state representative for MPPI, which I am for our Florida representatives, I'm going to sign this petition immediately. It has to be submitted to Congress by 5 p.m. today. So they are putting something out on behalf specifically of the Montessori schools with children in childcare age. So on your behalf, and I don't know exactly, I'm going to get the details, but I wanted to tell you, if I'm looking down at my phone, I'm trying to take care of that immediately. And I will give you an update on what that includes. Tim, do you know if Michael Bourne is on the call? Michael, we wanted to hear from him. Michael, if you're here, if you wouldn't mind. Oh, there you are. Hi, Michael. So nice to see you. Thanks for being here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Unfortunately, this is my second route with, quote, crisis in 2.5 years. For those of you who don't know, I'm head of school of VI Montessori in the Virgin Islands. 2.5 years ago, we were hit by 2 hurricanes, and we thought that the world was coming to an end. We suffered $3 million in damage, and our enrollment went from 300 to 150. And yet today, we're clearly in a better place than we were the day before the hurricanes. And my mantra that everybody here in the Virgin Islands has come to know very well, out of every crisis comes opportunity. And unfortunately, that's what we're facing again. But I emphasize, with a positive approach, we can all come out of this in a better place than we were before going in. As crazy as it may sound today, and as much anxiety as you may have today, this is the opportunity to excel and to create greatness. A couple of things I've noticed on chat room. It's absolutely important that you do not say you're closing. You're merely closing your physical campus and instituting whatever your plans are. Here, we've instituted distance learning this week already, and it's a combination of various things, from good old-fashioned phone calls to parents, to online learning, to physical packets being delivered, to we're doing videos on the part of teachers so that the students can see the teachers which they've come to love, and we're staining. We're transforming the means of education, but we're not stopping education. And in fact, many of you may know that one of the problems of a Montessori school is parent education, because parents are typically not Montessori graduates, so they have a hard time with the Montessori method. Well, guess what? We've just been handed a big fat softball to bring the parents into this loop. So here at the school, one of our mantras is about the three-legged stool: parent, teacher, student. And right now, we're emphasizing, teachers, you've been frustrated with parent education. Well, guess what? You just now have a perfect opportunity to rectify that problem. And so we've actively engaged in parents to get involved. And as I always said, this Montessori is not an education system, it's a way of life. And so now we're stepping up the game to incorporate the Montessori way of life into the house. But, you know, we're walking through parents about creating Montessori zones in their house and everything from toddler to the 6th grade is where we go. We do from 15 months to upper elementary. And then we also go to the high school, but that's International Baccalaureate curriculum. So we're taking a very proactive means. And somebody pointed out in the chat room about how we're also on re-enrollment time. Well, call us crazy, but we've taken the venture, say, in this time of complete uncertainty, our school has a solution. We're certain we will be here next year, and what you need to do now is enroll now to create one little piece of certainty in your life that you know where your student will be enrolled next year. And that leads me to this other scenario, which Tim and I have had much discussions about this 2.5 years ago when we were in dire straits. And I'm sure, I hope many of you saw that podcast and followed, but we faced that bleak day of thinking our school was total, $3 million in damage, enrollment down 50%. And rather than rolling over dying, we took that advantage, and now we have an endowment. Our physical capacity is greater, and our school is better. And so yes, I acknowledge I'm at a different place than many of you, because yes, out of that, my first crisis, I've created an endowment. So the financial hurdle that many of you are probably facing, I don't have, because we went out to our donors after that first crisis and said, we can't let this happen again. And so we're in a position to be able to sustain a period of time. It's not a massive endowment, but it's clearly an endowment that allows us to get through these hurdles. So keep that in the back of your mind as you go forward in this crisis as to how to prepare for the next one. Not that I love eating crises every 2.5 years, but we've come to know that this world is changing rapidly. So that's a piece of advice I have for you. And as I said, the fact that we have this ongoing relationship with our families, use that as your asset of saying, in this time of crisis, you need to be doing the reverse, making donations to the school in these rough times, because your family's future depends on a stable school. Take the proactive stance, not, yes, we've had parents come and say, well, where's my refund? And we talk them through the scenario of what we're doing. We're going to increase and continue to educate your child. We're not going anywhere. We're here. We're going to add value to your life, not disappear. And so be really proactive about it. Your job is education, and continue to do that. Do it better than you used to do it before. Constantly, get in front of your teachers, your staff, your parents, and even your kids. Let them know you're here for the long haul and you're prepared to deal with this crisis. Good luck. We can do this together.
Thanks, Michael. I think those were really practical points that people can take and think about how they can apply it to their situation. I think it's just imperative that we not tell parents we're closing. We're just changing how we're delivering. We're changing our methods of support, changing the formats. But if we tell parents we're closing, of course they're going to ask for their money back. That's a whole nother conversation. I'm going to revert back to this email or this text that I just received on the urgent thing, which I did sign and send on behalf of the state of Florida. I urge anyone else who is a state rep to make sure that they take care of signing this and getting this to Congress by 5 p.m. Eastern time. They are requesting, of course, funding for all child care facilities, not just Montessori. Okay, so they're really trying to make this very broad. All child care facilities, funding for pay for staff, funding for resources for staff that will be open, because there's some critical care, child care that needs to continue to be offered. And so they're asking for resources and training for staff for those particular, immediate care kind of places. It's about a 4-page letter, so I'm not going to read it all, but suffices to say, MPPI is working diligently on your behalf to see if we can get some mitigation for some of the economic impact. And the child care, in particular, children, people who serve children under 6 are being included in any sort of programs, any SBA loans, anything like that, that they're given a priority. So we'll keep you posted on how that is evolving. I think that we've heard, is there somebody, I'd like to kind of open it up to some of these chat room conversations, because your concerns, are issue. One of the things that Tanya has brought to my attention that's in the chat room is that New York is asking for childcare to be left open for those first responders. And I don't believe New York's the only state that's asking for that. I think there's some other states that have asked for that. So, let's talk about that, because then you have a choice, right? Do we stay open? Do we not? Washington State has 90 childcares that have closed, totally closed. So, let's for 1 minute or a few minutes take the priority of these early childhood. Those of you who have early childhood programs, or if you're a standalone early childhood program, let's deal with that issue first, because you have some different dilemmas. You may not come under the Department of Education. You may not have been mandated to close. Now I'm hearing you may be mandated to stay open, and you may have teachers who don't want to come in. So let's hear from someone who's in that kind of a situation. If you don't mind, just unmute or put in the chat room that you're ready to talk, and I'm trying to scroll down in the chat room. There's lots of chats going on.
Hi, my name's Joy Wilder. I'm the owner of 2 separate Montessori schools, but I have one in-home Montessori preschool. We only have 11 children, and we're half day. So we're in Alexandria, Virginia, where the Fairfax County has closed for 4 weeks. We have closed for 2 weeks. But I'm trying to figure out, can I reopen?
Mm-hmm.
And also, if my teacher doesn't want to come back, can I kind of like allay her fears that it's only 10 kids? It's not 500 or 5,000 children in a building.
Yeah, there's been a lot of, we've heard from a lot of schools whose teachers are being very resistant to either online learning or coming in for work, whether the children are present or not. And, there's some definite fears out there. And I'm happy to hear from other folks on that. I mean, certainly we want to be compassionate and understanding of their concerns. People have to make individual choices. And at the same time, if our school has chosen to go to online learning, our school has chosen to be open, this is your job. And so helping people understand that there are expectations in order for you, we're trying to preserve your job. And so I think, again, with compassion, but very clear expectations is very important, and reality about what the real risk is. Mark had said a lot of this is fear-based. Yes, that's true, but we also want to be proactive in our planning, right? We also want to think ahead about the what-if scenarios. What if this goes for 6 weeks? What if someone comes in and gets sick? What the sort of the possibility scenarios, I think, is important to consider. Jonathan, do you think you could weigh in on this particular one, because we've talked about this? You're muted.
Hi, Kathy. This is Diana. I'd like to share my thought.
Hi, Diana.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I didn't see.
Okay. I just want to take one little thing that Andrew Cutt said that I think is really worth reinforcing in terms of building community and building support. It's let's think about whether you're a large school or a small school. You know who your ally parents are. You know the people who are just 100%, behind you, the true blue loyalists. They have a good sense of Montessori often, and they're, the 20% who do all the work. Enlist their support to communicate with other parents that the school is continuing. We're going to be doing education in a different adaptable mode, but we're still going to have this wonderful learning community of adults and children. Your children are going to be supported at home. We're going to help you with some parenting things at home. So give that sense of continuity and distribute the leadership to some of your ally parents. And then also think about the other parents on the other side of the big bell curve, the other side of the silent majority, which is, the parents who are going to often be the doubters, the disruptors, the dissenters. Spend some time with them. See if you can build some community with them so you don't have these, wild social media things going out that are disrupting everybody and making people, upset and stressed. And so I think Andrew's idea of going to his parent association and enlisting their support is truly brilliant. I also want to reinforce something that Michael touched upon really brilliantly, which is, if I were to phrase this in two ways, there's continue to build community, the continuity of your community and the continuity of your education, adapting it to this isolation. And I also think with teachers and parents, we do need to give them in a very nice way the reality check of, look, we're going to continue, we need to continue, and we need your support. And without your support, you don't have jobs and your children don't have an education. I think in whatever way we can frame it, we need to give people the reality check of, look, this is going to continue and we need your support. So those are just some initial thoughts to support really what the four people have already talked about.
Kathy, can I jump in?
Please do.
So somebody had a comment about the staff not wanting to participate, and we this week, in very short order, we launched on Wednesday Google Hangout for lower L, upper L, and middle school, and we did one today with Children's House, just for the children, not for the parents, and we used it as a learning opportunity to see what the needs were, and now we're readjusting and pivoting. But one thing I realized, which surprised me, was I have a lot of staff who have family overseas, and they are phenomenal at Google Hangouts and video chatting. They've got this. They know how to prepare the environment behind them so it's not distracting. They know how to look right at the camera and not be afraid. And they may be the shyest teacher I usually have, but they do this every week as they talk to their family in China or in the Netherlands or anywhere overseas. So I have now made issued an edict or an order. Those guys are going to be doing our Google Hangouts, and the shy teachers, or the ones who are so phenomenal at curriculum development, they're doing the background of developing curriculum and putting it into a shared folder for the parents, because the same people who can be really comfortable at being a Zoom person or a we're using Google Hangouts, is not necessarily the same person who's really good at writing up a curriculum document for parents to use with ease of parents. So as a result, people who were more senior teachers are taking a step back, and some of our assistants and younger teachers are actually going to run these classrooms. And that was a learning I just had today at 9 a.m. And so just kind of maybe reevaluate your staff, and how they contribute in a distance learning method is not how they contribute in a day-to-day on-campus way.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for those schools who are going to be doing distance learning. I think I want to come back to Joy, because I think, Joy, you're asking somebody to actually come in and open and be with children, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. Which is, an added level, right? Of people might think that that's risky. And I want to go back to Deanna. Deanna also has early childhood program with infants through 6-year-olds. So Deanna, do you think you can come back on and speak to what you were going to ask or comment about?
Yes. Yesterday I have a long thought and sort it out, because my program is from infant all the way to kindergarten. Even though these 2 weeks, physically they are not here, we're still supporting them since on Monday. We send them a lot of online video, work, presentation, circle time, story time to the parents. We receive overwhelming support from the parents. They are very thankful that we continue sending them, and we share how this difficult time, even seeing the picture of children, seeing the video from the parent that sent it to us, it gives us joy. At the same time, there are tears in our eyes. I want them to understand that. So yesterday, I come up with a plan. After the 27th, we're going to physically open on the March 30th. This is my plan. I wanted to share with my community here. We are allowed to open, but with a gathering only 10. So I have 3 separate playgrounds, possibly 4 playgrounds. Actually, I already done it. So we can possibly do 4 classrooms of 10 children each. So what entail is I will send out the survey to the parents who really needed physically the care for the children. They are coming. So from the infant all the way to the primary, we only limit 8 for the infant. 2 other classes is for 3 other classes is for mixed primary. With that say, if the parents staying home, we still continue to support them, sending out online education. So we divided our program into 2, physically attendant and without attendant, we still support them. So we and now the parent even say that they don't mind us to charge their tuition, even physically they are not there.
Thank you, Deanna. I think it's really important. I want to go to Tammy Willen, and then I'm going to come back to Tim. Tim, can you share? Because I know that you at the lab school have been going through the similar decision-making process, and it would be very helpful to share. So Tammy Willen, I think you're from Maryland, and maybe have something to share, if that's right.
Yeah, I think the discussion that was just had, and I'm sorry I didn't catch her name, but I think she covered some of what I wanted to say, but I just wanted to speak to the comment was made that Maryland centers have to stay open for the emergency personnel. It's not that Maryland centers have to stay open, it's a matter of fact that the ones that are open must provide care for the emergency personnel. They are telling you you can stay open or you can't stay open. So I'm sure a lot of those in my area are now thinking whether they reopen the childcare, which we are possibly considering. But the big thing is, do you have teachers willing to come back in and service those children? And how would you provide a safe setting for them during this situation? So, those are the considerations we're having. I'm sure some others in Maryland and other places are.
Yeah, I think so too. So I'm going to go to Tim, and then we'll open it back up.
Well, I don't know that any words of wisdom can get us through this. I mean, this is a huge crisis. Years ago, when I was working in my mother's school that she founded, I asked the question of the community, what would it mean in your lives if Barry were to fail, if it were to close? I want you to think about what would happen in your community, your city, if all of the child care centers, or shall we say non-public schools, were to fail. No one has to go to a private school. But if the relationship is simply transactional, like a daycare center, I think we've really missed the boat. And those of you who have been with me over the years and taken my courses, what I always say is you try to find the perfect match. You know that in your community, you're going to have this circle of people that are really your core believers. You're going to have the people who cannot wait for the year to be over because they hate your guts, or who want to start a new school. And you're going to have a lot of people who really aren't quite sure who you are and what kind of school are they involved in. The real golden opportunity that Michael Bourne experienced 2 years ago in the Virgin Islands and all our schools in the Caribbean that were, and including Puerto Rico, that were really, really damaged by the 2 hurricanes. They really had an opportunity to really get down to the soul of, why does this school matter? What's a relationship between your families and that school? And historically, people think it only matters if I'm on the board. And everyone else thinks I pay my money and I get my service and then I move on. The real opportunity here, the only thing that Montessori really has to sell, in my opinion, is mental health in an absolutely crazy world. a sense of community in a world that's becoming increasingly nasty. And lots of people have said to me since I was a young teacher starting in Montessori in my early 20s, does Montessori prepare kids for the real world? I don't think it does. And I think you all hopefully know the answer. Of course it does. It's the best way around. It's absolutely consistent with everything that mental health and school reformers and brain science researchers are showing. This is the way all schools should become, which is not only hands-on learning, it's the sense of safety, it's the sense of community. Our communities are being tested to their very soul right now. And ultimately, the question to ask, and I invite you to play with, and Michael may want to respond next, because again, of all the people here, I know you really faced this down to the bare bones when your school really got hit, is the relationship between your parents and your school. You know, in Sarasota, when we had the hurricane, we had about 50 families camping out in the school. What's the relationship between the school and your families?
Tim, you hit it. I mean, in other words, you know, I know we're in the midst of this crisis, but a lot of this, as we discussed 2.5 years ago, you know, starts yesterday. And you know, hopefully many of you did that homework and now are not faced with playing catch up. But even if you have to play catch up, this is the opportunity to take advantage of that crisis and, you know, take the chaos and make it an asset. The parents, just like you, are in unknown territory, and blend together and you know, somebody earlier hit it about, you know, you take your quote problem parents, those that you think are least supportive, and you befriend them, and you listen to them, and you hear their concerns, and hopefully you can tackle them. You know, clearly, you know, in the Montessori program, initially the younger students were the biggest concern, because, you know, parents responded, how are you going to teach my 2-year-old online? Well, we've developed programs to do just that. You know, we've created videos from our teachers and our assistants. And let me emphasize, you know, I may be an absolute, you know, off the record on Montessori, but I'm sorry. I believe our assistants are full-fledged teachers, and we need to utilize them, because I find in our school, those Montessori assistants have a better individual relationship with the kids, and the kids are looking to talk to those assistants and see them. And, you know, here, and Tim knows about it, we have a terrific chicken feral problem in the Virgin Islands, where chickens run around all over the place. Well, one of our assistants has created a video for the younger kids about, you know, caring for animals, of which one is a chicken, and has, you know, given value to teachers, or value to parents. And so it's changed the interaction completely, where it's not us against them, it's us. It's us, parent, teacher, student. And that's what you have to develop, guys, in this environment. You know, I cannot emphasize enough the opportunity you've been presented. As crazy as you may think I'm sounding, this is an opportunity for greatness. Grab it and run with it.
I want to just second what you're saying. Today, when we did our Children's House video, my staff went around to where each classroom pet normally lives and said, look, here's Bob the fish. Bob the fish went home with teacher MaryEllen so that MaryEllen could feed the fish every day, because the things children are worried about are the plants going to live? Are the fish going to live? What's going to happen to my classroom at school? And so I do encourage you to be brave and follow all of the great things that have been said, and go, if you can go into school and make a quick video that the school is still there. Children, even our 9, 10, 11-year-olds have sent me emails saying, I miss shaking your hand every day. So actually, I'm going to start a Google Hangout where I literally just do a handshake. I think that those connections are what these kids are going to eventually be missing.
So thank you, Mary Beth and
Excellent.
Michael.
That's exactly right. Terrific.
Yeah. I've got a lot going on in the chat about a couple of things, nuts and bolts of finances, unemployment, some certain regulations that we need to address. I'm gonna first go to MaryEllen Kordas, and then I want to, Anna Perry, I see you're on the call. I'd love to hear from you today too, if you're up for sharing, and then Martha Carver. So I've kind of going to triage you out here a little bit. So MaryEllen, go to you first.
Okay. Great. This is not meant to sound flip in any way, but I know that you're not sleeping or resting well anyway. So I urge you to take the opportunity to look at your finances as they are today and to make some projections about your hard costs, what you can and cannot afford. Look at what your enrollment, if your enrollment drops to 100, if it drops to 50, if it drops to 300, if you're a really large school. Look at some of those things so you will have the security in your own mind of knowing if you really hit a wall with what we're coming to, you will know where you are, and it won't be this mysterious cloud that is buzzing around you and you aren't sure. So use the time, you know, as we're talking about, use this as an opportunity to really hone in on your financial situation. You know, Montessori folks, not all of you on this call because you think about money, but you know, their eyes roll back in their head when you mention money. So it's really important right now that you grasp the time and think very seriously about this. It will benefit you if we get out of this unscathed, because you will have spent the time understanding your own organization so much better. So I urge you to do that. And I'd be willing to help anybody do that that would like to think about it.
Thank you, MaryEllen. Maybe we can, you know, something else might come out of this particular meeting where we can have some smaller groups, actually working groups, looking at some different scenarios. I know when my school went through the economic crisis of 2008, which hit Florida fast and furious and a little bit earlier than most other places, I did exactly that. I said, well, what if? What if we go down to 50%, which we did? What if we go down to 40%? What's going to happen? And I rebuilt the budget. So every new student that came in, I got to afford one more thing, right? And I knew exactly what the priority of what got built back in with every new enrollment that came back online. And so just having those kinds of things took so much pressure off of the unknown. You called it the cloud, right? It's the cloud of fear of the unknown. And so helping me put numbers in place. They were in a column. I could check it off every day. I walked that revenue and expense line every single day. It's like a tightrope. But walking it and knowing that I had it and working with a CPA, my CPA really helped me build cash flow charts, helped me understand how to add things back in, how much to put away for the next crisis, which we obviously are having. I'm going to go over to Anna. Anna, if you're willing to join us, I'd love to hear from you as well.
Happy to chat. I'm grateful to see so many people here. These are really important conversations to be having. I think the piece that I can offer, in addition to what people are saying, is to really consider what services you can realistically provide. Start small, but then build. We've been working with a number of schools about using Zoom. Mary Beth mentioned Google Hangouts as the other really common free application that's out there. Zoom.us is offering free accounts to schools during this crisis. And we've used it for many years now with our institute, with our adult students. This is not something we would ever have advocated for as a Montessori approach. But we're now almost a week into doing daily Zoom meetings with several of our groups of children. In Illinois, we're all at home. And so this has been a major change for everyone. We're doing these meetings with parents as well, using this tool actively, and our teachers are working pretty well full time. We have assistants participating on these calls as well, and I encourage, having sat in on many of them now, to watch early childhood students sing a song together, greet each other by name. The teacher is the one greeting. We mute everyone except for the teacher. And then we read a story together. We invite them to think about a few thoughts this day, some some ideas of things they could be doing to help around the house, or something that we'll talk about again tomorrow. Today the birds are starting to chirp in my yard. Would you pay attention outside to think about what the birds are doing in your yard as well? And then meeting again, same time, same Zoom link, same all the details the next day with whoever shows up. It's been quite wonderful.
That's beautiful. Anna, I have a couple of questions just related to that, so stay with me for just a moment here.
Sure.
First of all, people are saying the Zoom, the 40-minute is free, but I want to make sure that we clarify that if you upgrade, there's no charge to schools to go to the more unlimited platform. So you can go to Google and apply as a school, or not as Google, I'm sorry, Zoom.us, and you can get the extended thing, although I don't think you want to be on with early childhood children for more than that anyway. So
right.
Please tell us how long, because we're getting lots of questions, how long do you do this?
So sure thing. So we did intensive Zoom-based professional development with our teachers this weekend through Seldin Montessori Institute. I'm going to be offering some free Zoom guidance on how to manage a meeting, as well as how to host a meeting like this. So we're getting that ready to put up on seldinmontessori.org. But so we do, for early childhood and toddlers, we have been doing 15 minutes, giving up to 20 minutes. With the teachers, we talk about channeling Mr. Rogers. Think about engagement rather than entertainment. We are not here to we're not here to entertain. We're not a cartoon. We're really about making connections, and we're allowing them to see us in our homes, and we're seeing them in their home spaces, which in and of itself is really enlightening. We start with the exact same song every morning. We end with the same closing song. We use a song for closing that's all about community that the children know very well. And then in between is what we vary. We're talking about, and so this is for toddlers through early childhood. For elementary and beyond, it's a really different game. I think you must be doing some really active connecting. If you're saying that you're still charging tuition and you're providing services, what are your means of connecting? Do you have, Google Classroom set up? Do you have a learning management system already in place? Can you create something quickly so that you can be tasking out, giving some real concrete work that isn't Montessori material based necessarily, although we may get there, but is work that children can be doing within their home setting using the tools that they have available to them. But for birth to 6, pairing this morning meeting, next week we're going to be piloting offering an afternoon session, every other day, Spanish and music. Again, 20 minutes, 15 minutes. Yeah. Just another opportunity for connection. When you see the children seeing each other, this is not the same as watching a cartoon or being entertained. Their hearts are filled, and they are so happy to see each other and to be with each other. And using the mute function effectively, shutting off a video screen. If you're managing the meeting, you can shut people off, you can mute people, you can unmute people. You do have the power, so to speak, to control how the meeting feels. And so if there's someone who just isn't able to participate, you can also quietly let them off the hook by
a different kind of classroom management, I would should say.
It is. It takes 2 adults, I would say, to be able to do it well, and it's small groups, never a large group for young children, just their small classroom groups.
That's really, really helpful. I know a lot of people are asking about how to get the training, so you're going to be uploading some things at Seton. I know we have some Zooms that have been done on how to for educators, how to use Zoom, what is appropriate uses of it, and also how to use Google Classroom that we've been posting. So we're happy to share all those resources, and I appreciate you sharing that. I think, this whole thing about engagement and keeping people in community and keeping people connected is just such an important element. And I'm going to ask MaryEllen to speak about that in a few minutes, but I I think I said Martha Carver was next, so I'm trying to keep myself on track here. Martha, if you're here, if you could unmute and share some things with us. I know there's been questions on some of the legal implications that you might have some insight into.
Sure. Thanks, Kathy. I'm glad to see everybody. And I'll dovetail with Anna that we've been doing the same sort of thing with Zoom developmentally. And today was the first day it was launched, and I popped into every meeting, and it was amazing. We're also offering in the evening parent support. It started out too that I did a parent meeting via Zoom as soon as we knew, about 24 hours after we knew that we were going to, that was mandated by Wisconsin that we shut down. But we did continue that conversation about that we were instituting distance learning. We also prepared packets of hands-on activities for toddler and primary, and that's gone a long way. Recently I did like a fireside chat that was recorded to let to just check in with my parents and let them know. But one thing that we instituted to kind of hold the community together, I have a dichotomy of parents, some that paid tuition all year and some that run very small businesses and are at risk, or that they are recently laid off. So one suggestion I have is to start a parent directory. So we're starting a parent directory through a Google format that if you have a side gig, if you have a small business, if you have something that you can contribute, it will be in this directory. So if other parents in our community are looking for that landscaper or looking for that veterinarian or whatever, we're pulling together with the adults in our family to show that we are that community to be there for you and to help. So it was like Mr. Rogers' look for the helpers kind of mindset. And we went forward with that. So far we can barely keep up with how many entries we're getting in for people that are offering services. And oddly enough, people that are saying, hey, let me know how I can help you. I have this time during this day, that sort of thing. So I think it will bring our community together.
Martha,
On the legal front, I'm happy to
oh,
share. Yes.
Martha,
Hi, Tanya.
Hi, Martha. The specific interest was about your comment about OSHA implications and unemployment and employment, and can we force people to go back to work? That was really critical to the financial aspects of what the conversation was looking like for you?
Yes.
Okay,
yes. Great. Right. I will share with, I believe, perhaps Kathy to get the documents from our attorney, but he issued for all of his clients top 10 recommendations for coronavirus in the workplace. And he talks about to remember that OSHA's general duty clause requires employers to provide a workplace free from recognized hazards that are likely to cause death or serious physical harm. And so you need to have signage up about hand washing, etc., and not have anyone in your building that is displaying any symptoms. So I'm happy to share his two documents on guidance. One is that, and the other one is the interpretation of the latest legislation that passed that affects employers. So perhaps that would help.
Thank you, Martha. We'd be happy to share those with people who are interested and post that. We can even do it in the chat, or you can send it to me personally and we'll get it out to everybody. We do have a website, like I said before, that we expect to have live sometime tomorrow, Saturday at the latest, that'll be storing resources. If you have resources you want to share, let us know. We're happy to put them on. Tim?
Yeah, I'm getting messages from people that are feeling that we're drifting off topic, and I also see a lot of people who've asked about the daycare call I got earlier today. I feel like that's been addressed, but it is worth re-saying. Conversation that I had with one of our consulting clients was you have to look at the ethics and you have to look at the law and the issue of risk. And there's pros and there are cons, but the bottom line is if you are shut, you are not stopping, or you should not be stopping to provide service. You're in a force majeure situation beyond your control. And what you need to be doing is working to, first off, reconnect your families, help them through this incredibly challenging time, build community, and deliver not just packets of things that parents can do at home, because the parents may be home trying to do work because their employer has said work from home. And it's also true there are families that have been laid off. That's a different situation. So we have as many different situations as you could possibly have. Those schools that are able to rebuild their community, take this opportunity to rediscover why we're all together, are the ones that are the most likely to get through this. I would hate to see any of our schools fail, because you and I know how incredibly expensive it is to start a new school, how incredibly hard it is. There are people that just think, oh, well, I'll just go hire that individual teacher and go start a school. It's a lot more than that. And the years and years that go into this, and the psychological damage that is caused to children, to community, to all the adults, is just devastating. It's as bad as what we're going through right now. So again, our job, not in this meeting, is to figure out how to deliver the very best community connecting experience we can virtually until we're able to come together physically. And there are lots of resources being gathered and put together in a pretty coherent way that are being created by lots of people cutting across all the Montessori organizations. There is not going to be one set. There are lots of people. Anna Perry is a center of influence herself. So part of our goal is to just look at how do we make it through the rest of this school year, and how do we make it into the next school year, if, economically, which is the real topic of this meeting.
Hello, everybody. Lamia here from Qatar again, and I have a question.
Sure.
The laws in Qatar are very different than the ones in the US. Now, I want your word of wisdom regarding the teachers and the fact that in our case, we're a private school. If we don't get paid from the parents for the term 3 fees, our school is divided by terms, and term 3 starts in April. So if we don't get paid and parents do not like our approach of doing whatever we're doing remotely, we will not be able to pay the teachers. And we actually shared with them a contingency plan that they're getting paid for March. For April, so far, it's going to be a bare minimum because it's the amount of money that we actually have. And if we don't get paid, we cannot pay them anymore, and it will be an unpaid leave until we come back in September. And would it be fair if that's the case, and then my teachers have to literally go to their home countries if they open the airports, would it be fair to ask them to actually work and keep on doing these online chats and providing the resources to be sent to these children, even though, because I want to keep that community, I want to keep the children to come back and register and stay with us for next academic year. So I don't want to lose that community. However, how fair is it to pay these to have these teachers work while they're not getting paid? It is not that they don't want to support us and they don't love the school and they don't want to be there for us. However, no matter how lovely they are and no matter how much they want to help, how fair is this? I'm lost. That's why I need your wisdom, guys, and your help. Tell me what to do.
Mark, thank you for
taking that one on.
Such a hard question. Someone in the chat window said that, Lamia, nothing in this situation is fair. And of course, that's really true. One thing I would encourage you to think, now, obviously, you know, in my ideal world, you will still find some way to collect something and pay your teachers something. But let's imagine that that's just not possible. I would think in terms of delayed compensation, right? You're not asking your teachers to do nothing. You're asking them to trust you that you will make it up to them in some way in the future. You know, presumably, again, I think I said this earlier, but just to repeat, this is the time that we draw down on all the goodwill that we've accumulated in our community over the previous years, right? People hopefully know you, they trust you, they love you, they know what, you know, how committed you are to their children, the staff know how committed you are to them and their futures. So this is the time that you really are going to have to ask people to trust you. And you may not be able to answer to them, the parents or the staff, how you're going to make it up to them in any great detail. You're going to, you know, I would strongly encourage you to do what your instincts are saying, Lamia. I do think that what's best for the children should always be what drives us in Montessori, if at all possible. But at the same time, you may need to, given the fact that if you just can't pay them anything right now, you may need to think about how much you're asking of them, and you may need to, you know, be a little more flexible than you normally would be. I don't know your circumstances, so I'm not trying to put words in your mouth or ascribe anything to you. But I would say that all of us, every last one of us, needs to be gentle. We need to be gentle with ourselves and with each other. You know, we need to be loving and kind and patient. And I think it's perfectly reasonable in a horrible situation like this to try to be, to ask things of each other, and that, because that's what a community does, right? That's what a family does. The question is, how much do you ask, and is it something that you can make up for later? That's all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. And there's several, let me just so you know, there's several responses also in the chat box you might want to look at, people trying to be helpful. What I'm hearing both from our chat and from just what I'm hearing from you in general, that in addition to this meeting where we're really just processing on a fairly macro level, that we need a couple of other follow-ups. So number one, I'm hearing, and please help me if you think of other things. Number one, I'm hearing that we need a meeting that perhaps will be specifically to schools under 50 students. That we perhaps need a meeting that will be specifically for those of you who have early childhood programs that really need to make decisions about that may not come under the Department of Education or have specific regulations involved in that. And I also think that there could be very small groups that might want some coaching on, you know, how to get into the nuts and bolts of this and help do some what if scenario planning on, you know, what happens if people don't re-enroll, or, you know, sort of deal with our worst fears and then work backwards and look at a good strategy in place for some of these things. So that's what I'm hearing so far. Let me know if I'm missing something that you think, because we will schedule additional meetings and reach out to smaller groups where we can, you know, really address some different issues than we can on the bigger level. Any other thoughts on that?
I can only say that I suspect that many of you came here first to hopefully receive magic answers. We don't have magic answers. We're all in it together. The second is, I think you came together because you wanted somebody to talk to and support, and you're beginning to make connections to each other. You save the chat, you'll have the emails of people, you know, who have been talking, and you'll be able to reach out to them. And person-to-person networking is really great. We started the Montessori Foundation in 1992 because a group of us really felt that there was something that really couldn't be met by any one of the major Montessori training societies at all. They weren't really able to be agile enough to respond And what we've tried to do over the years is, as we see needs, develop things that sort of push the envelope, like blended learning originally came out of the foundation and other groups. The fact that all these meetings are occurring would have happened ultimately, but we put out a call and we were able to marshal people together quickly. The bottom line is, we know that some of you really need help really thinking things through on a very tight level. We're here to help, and we encourage all of you to help each other in any way you can. We've got lots of great people in this room right now, and there are going to be lots of meetings, and we've been meetinged out over the last week, day and night, holding open forums and talking. Renee Farkas is just unmuted, and she's another one of those wonderful leaders. So the whole idea is, this is not one of us being the sage on the stage. We're all in it together, and we need to help each other through this. And it's emotional as well as practical.
Kathy?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm wondering whether another area of support or a specific support group could be just leadership communications. You know, how to ask the right questions, how to share difficult information, how to enlist support, how to keep your culture together, because this is a very tricky time with people this stressed, and it is the job of leaders to maintain community, and that most of us are not hardwired with that.
I agree. Michael, did you have something you wanted to add? That's Michael Bourne. I saw that you unmuted.
Yeah, I just unmuted now, but I've just been typing on the chat side about, you know, now's not the time to be proud and not reach out to your parents or anybody. You'll be amazed at the resources of your community, of your parents, or their cohorts. And as I tell people, you know, because I do raise substantial monies, and yes, people tell me no, and that's perfectly fine, because that's all they do is say no. But then you keep expanding, and you'll be amazed at where help will come from. People that you may think didn't have the resources, but they were a friend of a friend or whatever. And now is not the time to have a stiff upper lip and say, things are perfectly fine, don't worry about it, send your kid here, just pay tuition. This is the time to say, hey, reality has hit home, the school's in dire shape, we need your help. And it may just be one person that steps up and says, I got your back, we're gonna take care of this. Or it may be 10,000 people giving $1.
Yeah, Michael, your story has been such an inspiration. And what, you know, I know I spoke with you after you were going through this recovery and all of that. And, you know, it just gives us all hope. So thanks for your leadership and what you've been willing to share with us. John, back to you.
I would just say, to me, the other side of Michael's coin there is, in addition to not being afraid to ask for help, this is a time for us to be cheerleaders of our Montessori vision and all the good we're doing for these children. And, you know, people under stress, they look at the glass half empty, and that's what many parents are going through right now, and many teachers. And it is the job of leaders to be the cheerleader. Like, look at the good we have done. Look at how much good we can do right now. Let's pull together. We need your help. So it is bringing people back to the goodness of everything your teachers and your families are doing.
I have a question. Can I go back to Michael for just a second, Tim? Because we have a question. Somebody's responding specifically to Michael and asking a question. And I think it speaks to a lot of people who are afraid to ask for help because it's going to make parents start second guessing, is the school failing? Do I need to run? Do I need to jump ship? So, you know, how do you ask for the help and not scare the heck out of everybody?
Yeah, you know, for those of you who don't know, they used to want me to be in politics in the Virgin Islands, and I never got into politics because I'm not a very good liar. I'm a very transparent person. And I just put the chips on the table. And you say straight up, it's like, you know, we're in dire straits. However, we're committed to this Montessori way of life, and I emphasize again, way of life, not even education, and that this community needs us. And, you know, for instance, that's once again the thing that you guys may remember. You know, after our hurricanes, people came to me and said, we will not let this school fail. Our community needs the Montessori system. And you've got to take that chip and parlay it into the community. And yes, there's that downside that maybe somebody will say, oh my God, you're going to fail. But I would venture to say, well, put it this way, if you don't ask, you're not transparent, you don't tell people, you will fail.
Right,
So,
there you go.
okay?
What's the alternative, right?
So you might as well come clean and say, yes, we're going to fail if somebody doesn't step up. And therefore, I'm asking you, collectively to step up. As I said, it will come in. I had a guy who was a generator mechanic here, and who came forth and put down $400 above his tuition payment to help. And then I had other people put up substantially more. But you'll be amazed at the gamut of where it goes, because if you do a good job and inspire and lead, people will say, just as they said here, we cannot have a community without VI Montessori School. And so that's what each of you have to do is get passionate about what you do, and put the chips on the table and let them roll. But I would venture to say, it's going to say,
Oh,
did we lose him?
For a
think
moment.
so.
Yeah, they'll come back.
Well,
Okay,
can I
sorry.
just reinforce something?
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Michael, thank you. And there's a relationship, of course, between showing community continuity right now and as much educational continuity and what Michael's saying. In other words, if you present yourself, oh no, we're still having school. We still have this incredible community. We're just doing it through a different means, and then build the ask around that. So it doesn't look like the school is non-functional or falling apart. No, school is functioning. Our community is functioning, and we need your help to keep it functioning. So you're building from a base of strength.
Yeah.
Can I second that, Kathy? This is Renee. Hi. We positioned it. I have not once used the word closed. I'll probably say it now, but we have just said learning at home. And I know there's been a document going around with that same title that we and I talked to the students about it the day before we did it. And then the day that we did it, that we're not closing school. And I said it over and over. We're shifting the learning to the home. And in my mind, you're still getting it. Everybody should anticipate paying their tuition because we're still here, even though it's abbreviated hours. And that I'm beginning now to do some work with parents, and I do a head of school tea per grade level, and I put them all on the calendar for next year. And almost all the parents in each class have signed up to be there, and they're 45 minutes. So I just think communicating, and I have a mindset that of course they're paying the tuition. We're still giving school. I didn't do this. This wasn't, the pipes broke in the building and I'm responsible. This is a national crisis, and what are they going to do without us? And that's why I think bringing the teachers into the conversation, and I loved what Anna said, engagement, not entertainment, on one level, because, get the students, and particularly in Montessori, they can do work beyond being on Zoom with the teachers, and get them in little class groups that they're writing a story together. In upper L, they're perfectly capable of doing that. And I just put together a parent advisory group so that I've got 6 parents that I'm just going to talk high level on and get the support, because the more you connect the parents, they're going to talk to each other and say, oh, no, school didn't close, we're still doing it. What else can we do? And keep that conversation going. And because I think we're in this for a long run, and where are the parents going to go in April when we find out we're not back at our school buildings till the end of the school year, which is being predicted in Boston right now. And I have a graduation class, and I have seniors that I'm meeting with tomorrow, and I'm already crying before the meeting about how sad it is for them.
Yeah.
But we will do something, and we have to, as leaders, I think we have to keep that positive point of view that we're learning is only shifted. And if anything, we're giving our students skills that they wouldn't have got otherwise, right? Independent study, research, collaboration, working with a group. I think there's a lot of opportunities, and we have no choice but to make this an opportunity.
Yeah,
So.
I absolutely agree. I know many of you wanted to have a chance to speak, and we've not gotten to everybody. There's no way. We have almost 400 people on the call, but I will keep reiterating that we will continue to have meetings, and some of the meetings will hopefully get a little bit smaller. Even though we have this great format, it's wonderful, but it's some of the meetings need to really be a little bit more personalized and be breakout on particular topics. It just tells me that there's just a huge need for all of us to be able to get together and share and be in community and be engaged in problem solving and trying to figure things out. You know, a key to the finance really has to do with continuing to deliver content and not being closed. That's part of it. Continuing to stay engaged with our families and supporting them and supporting our students and our teachers. Those are all very big keys to our financial health and longevity. Asking for help, as Michael has shared with us, and being willing to do that. But we also recognize that each of these school groups, you know, you have some in different states, you have different needs in different areas. We have legal and HR implications. We have unemployment. Someone has asked us to divide you all up by state. That's almost impossible for us to do. I just want to put that out there. But I would encourage you to contact your state advocate. If you don't know who that is, go to the MontessoriAdvocacy.org website. You will find your state organization. Reach out to them, see if they'll do some of this on your behalf that's state specific, because much of that will be when we get down to sort of legal HR things. A lot of that's going to be state specific. I know that they're overwhelmed too, but they want to help, and so feel free to reach out to them, and they're there to help too. So keep that in mind. Yes, someone's.
Diana. This is Diana.
Oh, Deanna. Okay, Tim's got to mute because he's answering the phone. Okay, Deanna, go ahead.
My background, I have finance and operation background. So I would like to share over the weekend, maybe on Monday next week, laid out the game plan with plan A, plan B, and plan C, all of those, and how to go about it. So I saw a lot of people are concerned. We all in here, and by knowing your number, that is the facts. I think then how you charge the tuition if you online, if for some parent that is needed your help.
Yeah,
thank you. That template with you.
Oh, that would be wonderful if you could share. Those of you who have finance backgrounds or those kinds of things, that would be really helpful to share with others. MaryEllen, did you want to?
Yeah, just one thought. You know how much this group has meant to you now, that you don't feel alone, and that is key. I want you to translate that to your school community and how important it is that you reach out to them. It sounds terrible to say, but the more community you can continue to build, as Michael has pointed out, and I experienced when we were building, people gave us money that I never would have imagined, because your commitment to the community translates to the bottom line. I don't want to make it sound like that's the reason you do it, but if you engage your community and you make them become part of who you are, you will realize an increase in your revenue too, because people need to know that they matter. And if you can convince them that they matter in those ways, that you will turn around someday and you'll have hundreds of people following your vision just because you put it out there and made them count.
And thank you.
And make everybody matter.
Thank you, MaryEllen.
Thank you. I want to piggyback on that for a minute. And right now, we have a golden opportunity to help parents who are under a tremendous amount of stress with their children at home, trying to keep their finances together. And I want to say this really delicately, in a sense, we are acting as the therapist for the Montessori family to get them through this. Yep. And I think in whatever way you would frame that for your faculty, I think teachers need to know you are here to really support the social, emotional needs of your families because they're under tremendous stress. And the more you can do that, not only by serving their children online, but by staying in contact with those families, they are not going to forget that. And that is going to translate into tuition dollars. And as Michael was talking, possibly donations. We are the therapists for the Montessori family right now.
You couldn't have said it better, Jonathan.
I'm going to ask Martin Pyre to unmute and come forward. I think you're still here.
I didn't know Martin was on. Great.
Yeah, he's been awfully quiet.
Yes.
But Martin, expertise. Martin has been a supporter of Montessori projects. So as a donor, as well as someone with a serious school and financial background. Martin, can you talk to any of these issues?
I really want to say there have been a lot of good ideas shared, and I jump in because we're being covered, especially Kathy Allen, on the doing the cash flow. I wanted to say that yes, you should do that, but you need to share that with your stakeholders. Also, as Michael indicated, there's a time when people will step up. But the other side of it is to be able to keep supporting all of your staff. They will be those that are there for you after the crisis. And now if you share what your capabilities are and share resources enough so that they can survive in their lives, they have things that they need to keep doing that you need to support, but they also are partners in keeping the school. So part of that is knowing what your cash flow is going to be, and your bank, if they are a partner with you, they rely on the cash flow prediction to determine whether or not you're going to survive the next 6 months or the next year. Very important for you to be able to go ahead and have knowledge to be able to share it. So I, again, reiterate a lot of good things being said here, and it's very important for you to find out what your parents need from you and to be able to provide that so that in the future they do stay a part of your community. So thank you.
Thanks, Martin. I'm really glad you spoke. Renee, I'm so glad to see you and really all of you. I mean, this is what we have been experiencing is the fact that we may worship at a particular church, and others you might belong to AMS, AMI, IMC, MEPI, whatever, but we're all in it together. And this is really something that is bigger than any one of us. And the only way to address this is by helping each other. And I'll give you an example. Right now, we put together this meeting. Many of you are going to be looking to try to figure out a way to ask your parents to continue to pay for something that's different from what they signed up for. By the way, that's really different from someone who is out of work. There are going to be different levels of need.
Yeah.
So typically what you want to do is, first off, if you're currently getting your money on a month-to-month basis, really recommend you look for ways to get money flowing into your school faster in the course of future school years. There are all kinds of ways we can do that. The simplest being start money getting paid, in a deposit before school starts, or do continuing enrollment, which is an idea that's been around for a long time that's coming back. And some of you may be able to speak to that for the future. But giving discounts for prepayment. I know at this moment you may think no one would do it, but don't be so sure. If you don't ask, you won't receive.
Absolutely.
Second is the normal tuition being paid either 60-40 or 50-50, with June being the initial. So you have a buffer. You can't fly at treetop level and think you're going to be okay. There will always be parents that need to pay you by the month. You need to monitor whether they're keeping current with their tuition. It's really tough to do that. Our hearts are with their kids, and usually it's the last thing we ever do. But you do need to monitor cash flow and make sure your bills are being paid. And I always say, charge a lot more than you need and give a chunk away in financial aid. My family has always said, try to do it. A third is going to be needs-based financial assistance. In a case like Michael Bourne, I think your percentage is dramatically higher in your school, right?
We have the whole gamut. I mean, 45% of our students are on financial aid, and then we have folks that did, just to your point, I'm just typing here, after the storm, rather than quote a donation, they gave us prepaid tuition for a year or whatever. So there's a lot of different ways to skin the cat.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. And I'm seeing some people are saying, you know, people continuously enter our school throughout the year and they do it month to month. Again, there's no one right way to run a Montessori school, but I really encourage you to start remembering we call ourselves schools, not childcare. We're family friendly, but we're schools. Our teachers are highly trained. They're not easily replaced. The cost is setting up the environments, the years it takes to create a stable community of children. All the different components suggest you need to build for longevity. And some of us are lucky enough to have been open schools in really wealthy communities, and even we're not safe. And others of us, like our own lab school in Sarasota, are really fragile. A lot of our families really don't have the money to normally be part of a private school community. I'm sure all of you have all kinds of things, but my advice would be that people enroll in your school for longer than a month at a time. You're really putting yourself at risk. If anything can happen and people can just flee, you're just asking for people to basically leave your teachers high and dry. And that's really a disgusting feeling. And you want to get away from that in the future. But right at the moment, the biggest issue is trying to help your parents to understand we're all in this together. We can't make you stay. This is who we are. This is what we contribute. This is what we're doing. And we need all the help we can get. One thing we can do is you may want to ask someone like Jonathan or Andrew or me or someone else to be part of a communication to your school community. I mean, we're going to be doing next week 9 countrywide community meetings, which will be limited to 500, but the goal is 3 a day throughout the week. We've got a lot going, and our goal is to let parents talk. It won't be enough, but if enough people do this, we may be able to help parents who want to think it through, and that's how the solutions begin.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. And I know we'll be getting out a mass email tomorrow with all of those links, dates, times of all the meetings for next week, so you can watch for that. And I also think that one of the things that I'm hearing so much from all of you who are sharing, which I appreciate, is that we want to be careful not to project onto parents the lens of our own fears. That a lot of this is that we're afraid, and it's okay to say it. We're afraid. We've not been through this before. Many of us have been through really difficult economic times or disasters or challenges. This is a little bit different. And I know that when we project that on we're saying, well, the parents are going to lose their jobs and the teachers might not come, and we're worrying about all the what ifs instead of being real about where we are today and taking a deep breath and making decisions based on this and reaching out to each other. We are here for you. We're happy to talk to you, not just me or Tim, all of us. We have emails shared. We can reach out to each other. There's more strength in this community of connecting and supporting each other. We're here to do this for each other. So don't hesitate. If you're looking for someone in your area to talk to or a school your size, one of the things we can do is connect you to other people. So we may not be able to do everything and solve your problems for you. In fact, I know for sure we can't. But I know that we can connect you to people who can be a support for you. If you don't have that support, please reach out and we will help you find it.
It doesn't matter any longer whether they're in your community.
Well, that's true.
Right.
Yeah, people were asking for some state-specific things. So, but yeah, we can go across all lines, and all of us are here to help, and we're offering all of these meetings and opportunities to connect. But in addition to that, we need some person-to-person, or your school might need some more intense support, and in which case we can connect you to a consultant or some professional development that might help in some way as well. So there's a lot of different ways that we can try to help you moving forward. Any other final thoughts? We have a few minutes left. Yeah, Mary Beth, go ahead.
Can I just add one more thing? I don't know about all the other schools, but my school and my staff has found this video conferencing to be actually quite exhausting. And and I'm sure I can't even imagine Kathy and Tim, who are on every minute of the day. But for example, yesterday I was on 5 different Google Hangouts just listening into the different classrooms. It's not the way we work, and it is exhausting. And so I just encouraged my staff today to actually make themselves a schedule, quit work at 5 p.m., turn off your computer, and go for a walk, and just really try to build in your lunch break, because these meetings are just seeping one into the next, and we're forgetting to get up from our computer, and it's very different in a Montessori classroom, right? And so I just wanted to encourage other heads to encourage your staff to take better care of themselves, or we're gonna be the first ones out.
Yeah, thank you. Hold on, we have someone who says Zoom fatigue is real.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Jonathan?
Yeah, thanks, Mary Beth. One of the things that we've instituted here at the Montessori Foundation, and I've noticed in the meetings that I've sat in on the Newgate School, the Montessori Foundation Lab School, whether it's Tim running the meeting or Tanya, is no matter what the information topic is, no matter what the agenda is for the teachers or for the parents, the first question is, let's find out how everybody's feeling. Mm-hmm. And if it's a relatively small group of teachers, literally the invitation has been to, everybody has an opportunity to talk about how they're doing. And so I honor what Mary Beth is saying, that, too much Zoom is going to wipe us out. But one way of mollifying that a little bit, if you have to be on a Zoom meeting, before you go to business, check in with everybody and let people talk about how they're doing, what's working, what's not working. So the relationship precedes the results.
Yeah, thank you. That's so important that we take care of each other, and we put people first. People first over money, people first over policies, people first over all of it. Has to be that way. At least
I just added this to the chat, Kathy, but I wanted to also mention that my level leads, who are the senior most member of each of the levels, they're going to host a wine/wine, spelled either way, and cheese with their teachers at 5 p.m. where they just each raise a glass of something and have like a virtual cocktail hour. And we're just realizing that we miss each other and we need to be together. California is in a shelter in place, so we're not even allowed to really go and be together, which is much harder than just closing your school.
Can I come?
Yes.
All you need is a meeting ID.
What do you like to drink, Mary Beth? I'm on my way.
Join us.
That's a wonderful idea, and I think so many schools could use a little bit of levity in the connection, right? So many of our connections right now are so serious, and it is. It is seriously a crisis like no other.
No, but I think we're missing, especially us. We're in shelter in place. We're not supposed to be interacting with each other.
Yeah,
it's
but we can like
lonely.
this. This is awesome. This is awesome. Thank you.
Of all states to be shelter in place, California, the most touchy-feely state. What are you going to do?
Yeah, I know, right? It's quite crazy out here. Just the Bay Area, actually, but it's a serious situation, and it's what we had to do. I closed my school before shelter in place went into place and had one plan and completely had to pivot to a different plan because now we can't really go into school and have the 3 teachers sitting together.
Yeah.
So
that's a great idea. We have to share those kinds of ideas. I appreciate that.
Oh, no problem. We're doing what we can out here.
Any other final words?
Mary Beth, I think we should call it imbibing in place. Practicing our pouring.
It's wine with an H.
There you go.
Right. I've just uploaded the latest chat for those of you who have been kicked off during the meeting. So if you're on, you can upload it again. I just want to remind everyone that the Montessori Foundation originally was set up to address both parents and school leaders. And we've done a lot. It's led other groups to be formed like MAA, Montessori Administrators Association, and the AMS Heads section. Administrators trainings have begun. Certifications have begun. The whole goal, though, is to keep expanding the circle, because I think you all sense how big the needs are. So our interest is, one, helping your parents to figure this Montessori thing out and move from being customers to being people who really want to know what can they do to help you instead of what have you done for them. And I know at the moment it feels like no one will ever feel that way about you. But there are probably people connected to you right now that if you give them half a chance, do. There are others who think that you've let them down and they're angry. That's true too. We're suggesting do everything you can to keep building the circle of community. And we're here to help. The foundation led to the creation of a membership group because so many people asked about it. So that's where the IMC fits in. IMC ended up looking at what could be done in teacher training. We created Mark, my son there, who did the great video that many of you have now seen and have heard, really had the inspiration that maybe Montessori training could be done legitimately in a largely online, blended, low residential way. That's been proven to be highly effective. There are all kinds of ways to do things, just as there are all kinds of schools. So what we're encouraging is find your own true spirit, your own true voice. Know that you're not alone. Know that it's not just me. I very deliberately kept myself quiet for a lot of the meeting. There's a lot of great people that are part of the foundation and the IMC and are just part of the Montessori Leaders Collaborative period. And that's what, believe, we're all in it together.
Thank you for that, Tim. And I have, let's see, Victoria Whitby, are you still on with us? You had asked earlier, you had something to say, and I just want to give you an opportunity if you're still here with us.
Hi.
Hi, Victoria.
How are
Thanks
you?
for your patience.
No problem. There were just some financial questions that I was concerned about regarding unemployment and then the legalities of actually not having staff on site and not accepting tuition. So I'm just hoping that maybe we could set up another meeting that maybe address some of those more detailed questions. We are a reimbursable method in unemployment, so the school's responsible for paying 100% of the teachers' unemployment. Trying to work through some of those topics would be really helpful.
Yeah, I will have those on the schedule by tomorrow.
Wonderful.
You'll see something come out.
Victoria,
Careful what you promise.
One of the
Yeah,
issues,
that one's, I've got the list going already.
I know.
we'll be happy to help. The one thing you should do, Victoria, is check in with someone who's an HR expert in your state.
Okay.
Because it really varies from location to location.
Yeah.
There's ethical issues we can talk about, but the specific state issues you want to look at.
Okay, thank you.
I want to say hello to Gulsevin, who's on. Gulsevin, thank you. Longtime Montessorian. I know she's been involved in a lot of Montessori in our history and in MACD and all of that. So Gulsevin, thanks for being on with us today. Mark, we have a couple of people who are asking specifically about CGMS residential. I'm going to give you an opportunity to address that right here and now before we sign off.
Sure. Yeah, I responded to.
Oh, okay. I missed that.
But
sorry.
The short version is that we're evaluating, right? I mean, I think none of us knows for sure. Obviously, we have concerns. And we're thinking very carefully about what we're going to do this summer. It would not surprise me if we don't have residencies, but that is not a call we're making at this time. So what we ask is that people don't buy tickets yet. Bear with us, and we'll get back to you in a couple of weeks when we know for sure what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the training, teacher education programs are in the same boat, evaluating and watching how the situation unfolds and looking at some options on how to meet the needs. I will say that MACD, who is the accreditor of our training programs, has been very proactive, responsive, and flexible to meeting the needs of our adult learners, both in their practicum requirements and in their face-to-face residency requirements. So we are working very closely with them, and we're just thrilled with Rebecca Pelton and her team and how proactively they've been addressing this. Okay, I think we're really coming to the end of our of our time together today. I personally want to thank everyone for taking so much time out of your day to come and share with each other and be part of this ongoing conversation. As I said, we'll continue to schedule meetings in response to the needs that we're hearing. These meetings, a lot of it is to assess what the needs are and see if we can get resources out to folks as quickly as possible. As Tim said, there'll be some Zoom meetings set up specifically to address parent needs, and those will be happening next week. And then, of course, we'll have more for school leaders as well as for teachers, just to give them some coaching in some areas to help them hang on. You know, we got to help realize that everyone's in a very highly stressed situation, both personally with their families and their communities, their jobs. All of these things are affecting us. And so, you know, this is the community that comes together to support each other. And I, for one, am thrilled to be a part of this community. I feel really proud of Montessorians and how everybody's rallying and coming together. And so I just want to express my deep appreciation for each of you and being willing to share. Any other final words before we sign off for the day? Okay, we will, you'll hear from us tomorrow, and then we will see you back on Zoom next week.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks everybody. Take care.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
This was great. So much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy, for coordinating the meeting. It was great. You did a wonderful job. And I will stop the recording.